Admiral Dorn of the Galactic Empire stared at the view screen with cold eyes. The primitive ship from Earth hung in space before his massive command vessel. It was small, crude, and barely worthy of notice. Yet something about it made him uneasy. "So these are the humans we've heard whispers about," he said, stroking his gray beard. His second-in-command, Officer Wren, nodded. "Yes, Admiral. They only achieved faster-than-light travel 30 years ago. Their technology is at least 2 centuries behind ours." The Empire had ruled the galaxy for over 5,000 years. With more than 10,000 worlds under their control, they encountered new species regularly. The process was always the same. First contact, assessment, then integration, willing or otherwise. "Open a channel," Dorn ordered. The screen flickered, revealing a human male with dark hair and stern features. He wore a simple blue uniform with small markings on the collar. "This is Captain Walker of the Earth Defense Force. State your intentions." Dorn smiled thinly. "I am Admiral Dorn of the Galactic Empire. Your species has entered Imperial space. According to our laws, you must submit to immediate assessment and classification." The human showed no fear. "We are aware of your assessments, Admiral. We're also aware that 90% of species you assess end up as labor forces or are stripped of resources." Dorn's smile vanished. "How could they know this?" "Your information is incorrect. The Empire brings order and progress to primitive worlds." "We've been watching you for 20 years, Admiral," Walker replied. "We may be new to space travel, but we're not fools. We've monitored your communications and studied your tactics. We know what happens to worlds that resist." This was unexpected. Most species encountered the Empire with no prior knowledge. Dorn straightened his uniform, trying to regain control of the conversation. "Then you know resistance is pointless. The Empire has never been defeated in war. We command fleets larger than your entire planet's population." Captain Walker's expression didn't change. "We understand the odds, Admiral. That's why I'm authorized to offer you this one warning." He leaned closer to the screen. "Leave Earth space now. Do not return with hostile intent. We wish to exist peacefully, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." Laughter erupted across the bridge. Even Dorn couldn't help but smile at the absurdity. "You're threatening the Empire, a single-planet species with barely functional technology." Dorn shook his head. "Your courage is admirable, if misguided." Walker's eyes hardened. "It's not a threat, Admiral. It's a courtesy. Humans have a long history of warning our enemies before we destroy them. Consider this your warning." Dorn's amusement faded. There was something in the human's tone. Not fear, not bravado, but absolute certainty. "You have 3 days to consider our offer of peaceful contact as equals," Walker continued. "After that, we'll consider any Imperial vessels in our space as hostile. Walker out." The screen went black. Silence fell across the bridge. Officer Wren cleared his throat. "Admiral, shall I prepare the standard first strike package? 3 battleships should be sufficient to pacify their defenses." Dorn stared at the small human ship as it turned and accelerated away. Something about this encounter troubled him deeply. In 500 years of service, he had overseen the conquest of 37 worlds. None had ever warned the Empire to run. "Yes," he said finally. "Prepare the fleet. We'll show these humans the price of defiance." As he watched the Earth ship disappear into the darkness, Admiral Dorn couldn't shake a strange feeling. For the first time in his long career, he wondered if the Empire might have finally met its match. 3 massive Imperial battleships emerged from hyperspace near Earth's moon. Each ship stretched over 5 miles long, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Commander Vex stood on the bridge of the lead ship, the Invincible, smiling as he observed the blue planet. "Scan for defenses," he ordered. The sensor officer worked quickly. "Sir, detecting primitive orbital stations and a small fleet of defense vessels. Nothing that poses a threat to our ships." Vex nodded. "This would be simple. The Empire had conquered thousands of worlds just like this one. Most surrendered after the first demonstration of power. Those that didn't were crushed within days. "Send the standard warning message," Vex said. "Tell them they have 1 hour to surrender before we begin removing military targets." The communications officer transmitted the message. Minutes passed. "Sir, we're receiving a response. Audio only." "Play it," Vex commanded. A calm human voice filled the bridge. "This is General Tom Reed of Earth Defense Force. We warned you not to return. You have 30 minutes to leave our system. There will not be another warning." Laughter rippled across the bridge. Vex shook his head in disbelief. "Their arrogance is remarkable," he said. "Target their largest military base. A single shot should demonstrate our power." The weapons officer locked onto a facility in a region called North America. "Target acquired." "Sir." "Fire." A beam of energy lanced from the Invincible toward Earth. The bridge crew watched expectantly, waiting for the explosion that would convince these primitives to surrender. Instead, something impossible happened. The beam curved away from Earth, deflected by some unseen force. Alarms suddenly blared across all 3 Imperial ships. "Sir," the sensor officer shouted, detecting hundreds of small objects rising from the far side of the moon. "What? Show me." The view screen shifted to reveal a swarm of human vessels, each barely larger than a shuttle. They moved with incredible speed, far faster than Imperial intelligence had suggested was possible. "Impossible," Vex whispered. "Their technology is primitive. They shouldn't have." "Energy spike," the weapons officer yelled. There. The first human attack struck the Invincible's shields with shocking force. The mighty battleship shuddered. Before Vex could issue orders, a second wave hit, then a third. "Shields at 60%, an officer reported. How are they penetrating our defenses?" The tactical display showed the human ships weren't firing energy weapons, but launching small projectiles that somehow passed through Imperial shields as if they weren't there. "They're using kinetic weapons," the science officer realized. "Our shields are calibrated for energy attacks." Vex grabbed the communication system. "All ships, recalibrate shields for physical impacts. Launch fighters." But it was too late. The human vessels swarmed around the Imperial ships like angry insects, striking from all angles. They moved with precision that suggested either incredible pilots or advanced automated systems, neither of which humans should possess. "Sir, we've lost the dominance," someone shouted as the second battleship exploded in a brilliant flash. Vex watched in horror as his mighty fleet crumbled before what should have been an insignificant enemy. How had Imperial intelligence been so wrong? "Prepare for emergency jump," he ordered. "We need to warn the Empire." As the Invincible prepared to flee, a message came through on all channels. General Reed's voice was calm. "Commander Vex, we studied your shield technology for 20 years before you arrived. We know all your weaknesses. This was your final warning. If the Empire returns, we won't stop at defense. We will bring the war to you." The damaged Invincible limped into hyperspace, leaving behind the wreckage of 2 Imperial battleships, something that hadn't happened in over 1,000 years. In his quarters, Vex composed his report to Imperial Command with shaking hands. How could he explain that the humans had not only anticipated their attack, but had prepared for it perfectly? For the first time in Imperial history, a first strike had failed completely. The humans had warned them to run. Now Vex understood why. Emperor Zol pounded his fist on the grand table, sending cracks through the ancient stone. The 12 high commanders of the Empire sat in silence, none willing to meet his furious gaze. 2 battleships destroyed by primitives. His voice echoed through the massive chamber. "Explain how this happened." High Commander Dorn stood slowly. As the officer who had first contacted the humans, he now faced the Emperor's wrath. "Your Majesty, we severely underestimated their capabilities. They appeared to have basic technology, but what we witnessed was deception." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Deception. Intelligence Director Cal stepped forward, activating a hologram in the center of the table. It showed Earth and its solar system. The humans have been studying us for decades, Cal explained. While they revealed only primitive ships, they were secretly building an advanced defense network. They allowed us to see only what they wanted us to see. The hologram zoomed in to show the debris of the Imperial battleships. Their weapons bypass our shields completely, Cal continued. They use simple kinetic projectiles accelerated to near light speed. Our shields are designed to stop energy weapons, not physical objects. Murmurs spread through the council. The Empire had faced thousands of species, but none had ever managed to defeat an Imperial fleet on first engagement. What do we know about these humans? The Emperor demanded. A xenobiologist named Dr. Mora activated her own hologram showing human physiology. They are remarkable creatures, Your Majesty. They evolved on a high-gravity world with extreme environmental variation. Their bodies can endure conditions that would kill most species. She displayed images of Earth's history. More concerning is their psychology. Unlike most intelligent species that evolve toward cooperation, humans have maintained aggressive competition throughout their development. They'd fought countless wars against themselves, developing military strategy to an art form. Another image appeared, Earth's nuclear weapons tests. They created weapons that could destroy their own planet, then chose not to use them. They practiced something they call deterrence, building weapons so terrible that enemies fear to attack them. The Emperor leaned forward. You're saying they're natural warriors. I'm saying they're unlike any species we've encountered, Dr. Mora replied. They combine technological ingenuity with an instinct for warfare that borders on prescient. They prepare for threats before they materialize. High Commander Trell, leader of the Empire's military forces, spoke next. We intercepted communications suggesting they knew about our standard conquest protocols. They prepared specifically to counter our first strike. How? The Emperor demanded. Unknown, Trell admitted. But they seem to understand our tactics better than they should. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Empire had always followed the same pattern. First contact, assessment, show of force, then conquest. It had worked for 5,000 years across 10,000 worlds. The humans had somehow broken that pattern. What do they want? The Emperor finally asked. According to their messages, they want to be left alone, Dorn replied. They seek recognition as equals, not subjects. Emperor Zol laughed bitterly. No one is equal to the Empire. High Commander Trell cleared his throat. Your Majesty, I recommend we assemble the Grand Fleet. 300 battleships should overwhelm even these unusual defenses. The Emperor nodded. Make it so. These humans must learn their place. As the council dispersed, Dr. Mora approached Dorn privately. Commander, I studied their warning messages carefully. There's something important you should know. What is it? Dorn asked. In human history, their strongest warriors often warned enemies before attacking, not from fear, but from confidence. When humans warn you to run, it's not a threat. She looked deeply troubled. It's a courtesy they extend before unleashing their full power. Dorn felt a chill. You think we should heed their warning? I think, she said quietly, that we don't understand what we're facing. And that should terrify us more than anything has in 5,000 years. 300 Imperial battleships assembled in deep space beyond the human solar system. It was the largest military force gathered in 2,000 years. Ship after massive ship dropped out of hyperspace, forming a formation that stretched across millions of miles. Admiral Gorn surveyed the fleet from the bridge of the Imperator, the Emperor's personal flagship. At 70 years old, Gorn had conquered more worlds than any living Imperial commander. The humans would be just one more victory in his long career. All ships report ready, Admiral, his first officer announced. Gorn nodded. Send the message to all commanders. We attack in perfect coordination. No single ships advance ahead of the formation. He had studied the reports from the first failed attack. The humans had somehow picked apart the smaller force by isolating individual ships. It would not happen again. Message from Imperial Intelligence. Sir, a communications officer called out. They've detected unusual activity in the human system. Show me, Gorn ordered. The main screen displayed images of Earth and its neighboring planets. Strange energy readings emanated from the gas giants Jupiter and Saturn. On Mars, massive structures had appeared seemingly overnight. What are those? Gorn asked, pointing at objects orbiting the outer planets. The science officer enhanced the image. They appear to be mining installations, sir. The humans are stripping resources from their outer planets at an incredible rate. Gorn frowned. They're preparing for us. Sir, the intelligence officer added, we've also detected unusual movement throughout their system. Small ships are positioning what appear to be defensive platforms in complex patterns. Gorn studied the tactical display thoughtfully. The humans were clearly expecting the attack, but it wouldn't matter. No defensive network could withstand the firepower of 300 battleships. The Emperor demands victory, he reminded his officers. We will give it to him. Begin the advance. The massive fleet moved forward as one, entering the outer reaches of the solar system. Sensors detected no human ships approaching to meet them. They're hiding, Gorn said confidently. Probably hoping we'll split our forces to search for them. As the fleet passed Neptune's orbit, strange readings began appearing on Imperial sensors. Sir, detecting unusual gravitational fluctuations ahead, the science officer reported. Before Gorn could respond, space itself seemed to twist. Massive distortions appeared throughout the formation, pulling ships out of position. Gravitational weapons, someone shouted. They're bending space. Dozens of Imperial ships struggled against invisible forces, their engines straining. Then, from hiding places among the asteroids and moons, human vessels appeared. They were larger than before, clearly built for war. All ships, open fire, Gorn commanded. The Imperial fleet unleashed its awesome firepower, but the human ships moved with impossible speed and precision. They didn't engage directly but deployed strange devices that created energy fields around Imperial vessels. What are they doing? Gorn demanded as his ship shuddered. Sir, the science officer said in disbelief, they're creating localized time distortions. Our weapons are firing at only half normal speed within those fields. Impossible. Such technology was theoretical even to the Empire's best scientists. Then came the human counterattack. From the surface of Jupiter's moons, massive cannons fired, launching projectiles at near-light speed. Each impact shattered an Imperial battleship. Evasive maneuvers, Gorn ordered, but it was too late. The carefully organized formation broke apart as captains tried desperately to save their ships. The humans had turned the very physics of space against them, using the Empire's tight formation as a weakness rather than a strength. Sir, we've lost 60 ships already, the tactical officer reported in shock. On the main screen, a human face appeared, General Reed, the same man who had warned away the first Imperial attack. Admiral Gorn, he said calmly, we warned your Emperor. This is your last chance to retreat. If you continue, we will not stop until your Empire understands that humanity cannot be conquered. As another battleship exploded nearby, Gorn realized a terrible truth. For the first time in Imperial history, they had met a species that might actually defeat them. Emperor Zol stared at the holographic display in shock. 123 battleships lost. Nearly half the Grand Fleet destroyed or disabled in just 6 hours of battle. The remaining ships had retreated in disarray, abandoning their perfect formation to save themselves. This cannot be, he whispered. The Imperial Palace, normally bustling with activity, had fallen silent. News of the defeat had spread quickly, and fear, an emotion rarely felt in the heart of the Empire, now filled its grand halls. High Commander Trull approached cautiously. Your Majesty, we must prepare our core worlds for possible attack. If the humans pursue. They won't, interrupted Intelligence Director Cal, entering the chamber with a data tablet. At least, not immediately. The Emperor turned to him. Explain. We've intercepted their communications. They're not preparing a counterattack against our worlds. Instead, they're fortifying their system further. Cal displayed new images showing massive construction projects throughout Earth's solar system. They're building a defensive network unlike anything we've seen before. Emperor Zol frowned. They defeated our greatest fleet but choose not to attack. Why? Dr. Mora, who had been analyzing human behavior, stepped forward. Your Majesty, I believe it's because of their unusual history. Unlike most species, humans evolved through constant conflict among themselves. They developed a concept they call proportionate response. Meaning? The Emperor demanded. They respond with force equal to what was used against them. We attacked their system, so they defended it. They see no need to attack our world since we haven't threatened their colonies. The Emperor considered this. Then they are weak. Mercy has no place in warfare. Dr. Mora shook her head. With respect, Your Majesty, I don't believe it's weakness. It's strategy. They're showing restraint now to send a message. Leave us alone, and we'll leave you alone. Before the Emperor could respond, the main communication system activated. A human face appeared on the palace's grand projector, not General Reed this time, but an older woman with stern features. I am President Bell of the United Earth Government. I address Emperor Zol directly. The throne room fell silent. Never in imperial history had a foreign leader directly contacted the Emperor without permission. How dare you? The Emperor began. You have attacked our system twice, President Bell continued calmly. Both times, we defended ourselves successfully. We have no desire for further conflict, but we will not surrender our independence. She paused, her expression hardening. We now offer terms. Recognize Earth and its colonies as sovereign territory. Establish diplomatic relations as equals, and there will be peace between us. Refuse, and we will be forced to demonstrate that we can reach your worlds as easily as you reached ours. The transmission ended abruptly. Emperor Zol's face darkened with rage. They presume to dictate terms to me, to the empire that has ruled the galaxy for 5,000 years. High Commander Trell cleared his throat. Your Majesty, we should consider their offer. Our fleet is severely damaged. If they choose to attack, silence, the Emperor shouted. I will not bow to primitives. Your Majesty, Cal said urgently, we've detected unusual activity near our border outposts. He brought up a new display showing strange energy signatures at the edge of Imperial space. Something is probing our defenses. We believe it's human technology. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. The humans weren't just defending. They were preparing to strike. How? The Emperor whispered. How can they reach us so quickly? Dr. Mora looked grim. The same way they defeated our fleet, Your Majesty. They understand things about space and time that we don't. And I fear we've pushed them to show us exactly what they're capable of. In the silence that followed, the Empire faced a reality it had never known before. The possibility of defeat at the hands of a species that had warned them, quite simply, to run. The imperial border world of Taxis Prime erupted in chaos as the sky turned bright white for 3 seconds. When the light faded, every power system on the planet had failed. Transportation networks, defense systems, and communication arrays all went dark simultaneously. In the Imperial Palace, alarms blared as reports flooded in from across the Empire. 23 worlds affected, shouted a communications officer, all experiencing complete technological failure. Emperor Zol gripped the arms of his throne. How is this possible? Our defenses were bypassed completely. Intelligence Director Cal interrupted, his face pale. There was no warning, no ships detected. Something simply appeared in orbit around each world and released an energy pulse that disabled our technology. High Commander Trell reviewed emergency reports with growing horror. It's happening across the Empire, Your Majesty. Border worlds, military bases, shipyards, all targeted with surgical precision. Casualties, the Emperor demanded. Minimal, Trell replied, surprised. The pulse weapons disable technology, but don't harm organic life. Our people are unharmed, but stranded without functioning equipment. The junior officer burst into the throne room, protocol forgotten in the crisis. Your Majesty, we've received a transmission from Earth. It's being broadcast on all Imperial channels simultaneously. We can't block it. The main screen activated without command. President Bell appeared, her expression grave but determined. Emperor Zul, you have ignored our warning and our terms. What you are experiencing now is a demonstration of our capabilities. The devices we've deployed around your worlds emit a field that temporarily disrupts your technology. In 24 hours, the effect will fade, and your systems will restore themselves. She leaned forward. This was a small fraction of our capability, targeting only military and governmental systems. We could have done far worse. We could have made the effect permanent. We chose not to. Emperor Zul trembled with rage. How are they doing this? He hissed to his advisors. Dr. Morris stepped forward. The humans call it quantum entanglement technology. They can transport small devices instantaneously across any distance. We believe such technology was theoretical, but this is your final opportunity, President Bell continued. In 1 week, we will expect your answer. Either recognize our sovereignty and establish peaceful relations, or face the consequences of continued aggression. The transmission ended. The throne room fell silent. After a long moment, Emperor Zul spoke, his voice strained. They could have destroyed us. High Commander Trell nodded slowly. The technology they've demonstrated, if weaponized differently, it could have eliminated our entire defense network permanently. Instead, they chose a demonstration with minimal casualties. Why? The Emperor asked, genuine confusion in his voice. Why show mercy when they hold such power? Dr. Mora had been studying a data tablet containing new information about human history. She looked up, her expression thoughtful. Your Majesty, I believe I understand now. Throughout human history, their most successful leaders have followed a principle they call speak softly and carry a big stick. It means to negotiate peacefully while possessing overwhelming force. She scrolled through more information. They'd fought countless wars among themselves. The most destructive merely wiped out their civilization. From this, they learned that true victory isn't destroying your enemy, but converting them to allies. Intelligence Director Cal nodded. It makes strategic sense. Why destroy what you could instead have as a trading partner or ally? Emperor Zul stared at the imperial emblem on the floor, a symbol of conquest that had spread across the galaxy for millennia. For the first time, he considered that perhaps there were limits to what could be taken by force. Prepare a diplomatic vessel, he said finally. I will send representatives to discuss terms. As his advisors hurried to obey, the Emperor reflected on the humans' warning. We warned them to run. Now he understood it wasn't a threat, but a genuine attempt to avoid unnecessary destruction. The Empire had ruled through fear for 5,000 years. The humans had just shown them something far more powerful. The grand meeting hall on the neutral space station Harmony gleamed with polished surfaces and soft lights. Representatives from the Galactic Empire sat on one side of the circular table, led by High Commander Dorn. Across from them sat the human delegation, headed by President Bell and General Reed. 1 year had passed since the Empire's failed invasions and the humans' decisive demonstration of power. This was the first official peace conference between the two civilizations. We thank you for agreeing to these talks, President Bell began, her voice calm and measured. Earth believes peaceful relations benefit everyone. Emperor Zul himself appeared via hologram, his massive form dominating the imperial side of the table. Such direct involvement by the Emperor was unprecedented, a sign of how seriously the Empire now took the humans. The Empire has ruled the galaxy for 5,000 years, the Emperor stated. In all that time, we have never encountered a species like yours. General Reed nodded. We are unique in many ways, as you are. Our hope is that we can learn from each other rather than destroy one another. The formal negotiations proceeded with careful precision. Territorial boundaries were established, trade agreements discussed, and diplomatic protocols created. The Empire recognized Earth and its colonies as sovereign territory. In return, humans agreed to share certain technologies, though notably not their quantum entanglement weapons or gravitational manipulation systems. During a brief recess, Commander Dorn approached Dr. Mora, who had been observing quietly. They're giving up so much, he whispered. They could demand half the Empire with the power they've demonstrated. Dr. Mora smiled slightly. That's what makes them truly dangerous, Commander. They understand that true power isn't about how much territory you control, but about how you use the power you have. As the talks resumed, Emperor Zul asked the question that had been troubling Imperial leadership for months. Why did you warn us? Before each engagement, you gave us a chance to retreat. Most conquerors rely on surprise, not warnings. President Bell exchanged glances with General Reed before answering. Throughout human history, our greatest leaders often warned their enemies before striking. It wasn't weakness, but strength. We believe that unnecessary destruction is wasteful. We would rather have trading partners than conquered subjects. The Emperor considered this, a strange philosophy for warriors as effective as you. We are not naturally warriors, Bell replied. We became warriors because we had to. Earth's history is filled with conflict, yes, but also with great achievements in art, science, and philosophy. We fight when necessary, but we prefer to build. As the final agreements were signed, a remarkable shift occurred in the room. The Imperial representatives, who had arrived with barely concealed disdain for these upstart humans, now showed genuine respect. After the ceremony, Commander Dorn approached General Reed privately. Your technology, Dorn said quietly. The quantum transportation, the gravitational weapons, our scientists say they're centuries beyond what you should possess given your civilization's age. Reed smiled slightly. We had good teachers. What do you mean? 20 years ago, one of your ships crashed on a remote moon in our system. The crew died in the impact, but the technology survived. We studied it, improved it, and prepared, just in case we ever met the civilization that built it. Dorn's eyes widened. You reversed engineered our own technology and used it against us. With improvements, Reed nodded. Your empire focuses on size and power. We focused on efficiency and innovation. That's the human way. As the delegates prepared to depart, Emperor Zul addressed President Bell one final time. You could have destroyed us, he stated. Why didn't you? Bell's answer was simple, because that's not who we want to be. We warned you to run not because we wanted to fight, but because we hoped you would listen and avoid conflict altogether. The Emperor nodded slowly, finally understanding. The humans hadn't just defeated the Empire militarily. They had offered a new vision of how power could be used across the galaxy. As the human ships departed the station, Imperial observers noted they traveled in formation, not as conquerors, but as protectors. The message was clear. They would defend what was theirs, but they would not seek to take what belonged to others. The Empire had ruled through fear for 5 millennia. The humans had shown them another way forward, and the galaxy would never be the same.